Hi everyone, it's the Rangers review pre-match briefing. We are here ahead of Rangers against Viktoria Plzen in the UEFA Champions League third round qualifier. I am Joshua Barry. I'm joined by Blair Malloy, who is somewhere in Ibrox, about to bring us some big team news. Blair, you getting on okay first and foremost?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Ibrox for what is certain to be another mammoth night in the Champions League qualifying as we take on Viktoria Plzen. And all the chat today seems to be about that team news, and it was very hotly anticipated. And Russell Martin hasn't disappointed when he came out with that post-match tirade on Saturday.
Yes.
It seemed like changes were inevitable, and four players that drop out today. That starting 11: Jack Butland in goals, a back four of Jeff Day, John Suter, Nasser Giga, and Max Aarons moved across to right back, which I'm sure we'll get into very quickly. That midfield three: Joe Rothwell, Lyle Cameron in for what I believe is his first start in a Rangers shirt. Mohamed Diamande keeps his place in that midfield three. Up front, Gassama, Cyril Dessers in for Danilo, and of course Oliver Antman, the man we've all been looking forward to seeing just after signing. He is in the starting 11. Josh, there's so much to unpick from that starting 11.
Yeah, mate, there is. There's a lot. Am I surprised? You know, you were there, Blair, in the press conference with Russell Martin, and one of his many. He called it honest yesterday, and I think honest is it wasn't a lesson in diplomacy. I think fair enough. And I kind of wrote my piece after the game, Blair, that the reason I thought he went on the attack so much instead of kind of defending his own ideas was because that was not a demonstration of his own ideas, if you know what I mean. Then the chat in the last few days has been, well, who was he speaking about? And we've kind of got our answer there, haven't we? I mean, dropping James Tavernier, a man who he defended a lot. He said he wasn't going to take the captaincy away, etc., when he came into the club. He obviously hasn't, but that's a big statement. It's one of the first times he's been dropped, especially on the back of what Russell Martin said. Max Aarons comes in. Nico Raskin dropping out as a huge talking point as well. Let's start with James Tavernier, Blair. Let me just ask you for your opinion. Are you surprised?
I wouldn't say surprised is the right word. I think I've become a little bit more used to this idea that James Tavernier might be undroppable in a Rangers team. And the interesting thing, I was always at the game on Saturday night, and I put a tweet out that said, I really do see a player in Max Aarons, but I really don't see it at left back. He's just not suited to that position at all. You seen it on Saturday. Every time he was trying to make a move, he had to think about it 2 or 3 seconds more than if he was on his natural side. Because he's doing everything with his wrong foot, he's taking 2 or 3 touches when he's not got time for that. And especially at this level, he's going to get found out. We've seen it in the last few games. I think he's not been shown up for himself because he's not been in his right position. So we'll see how he gets on at right back tonight. I think this will probably be an acid test for him if he's going to be good enough for Rangers, if he's going to be up for this level. He's now at right back. He's no excuses. As for the man who's replacing James Tavernier, well, James Tavernier's been in the building so long at Rangers that it's almost muscle memory that he reverts to type when things are going difficult for me. You could see it on Saturday. He was whipping balls in, and don't get me wrong, he got the goal, which I think he stands up and he does make that moment happen from the corner. But there was so many times that he was just reverting to that I'll dig us out this hole by putting in a deep ball and finding a centre forward, and it just doesn't work, and it doesn't work in this system. I think that's the point Russell Martin was making, that when everybody has to do their job, everybody has to do what he wants them to do, and James Tavernier going out on a whim and maybe doing what he wants, I just don't think it's going to work in this 11.
Yeah, it's a fair point, and I think it's similar with Nico Raskin, who we'll come on to in a second. A few people asking who the captain is. It's John Suter tonight. Interesting comment here from, if I can find it, a comment from Dave, good friend of the show, who says Suter is captain. I didn't realise Butland wasn't the vice captain anymore, but it is according to UEFA. I think, it is John Suter who's the captain. I'll read you the bench as well, Blair. It's Kelly, Tavernier, Cortez, Barron, Bayrami, Dowell, Fernandez, Raskin, Rice, Gentles, Curtis, and Danilo. Listen, Derek here saying, well done for Russell Martin picking tonight's team. Love it. Decisions that had to be made with egos and attitude. James echoing a sentiment that's kind of shared around a lot, Blair, which is that it's a surprise to see Raskin drop out. I don't think it is on the basis necessarily of what we've seen from performances, but I would say it is on the basis of he was Rangers' best player last season. He's one of their most valuable assets. and he's not been playing in his favoured position. We know he wants to play in that number 6 role. Again, I'll put it to you, do you think he can have complaints on the basis of performance? And then, I guess, secondly, does it feel a little bit different to Tavernier, because you've got to think about a player's value here, how happy a player is at the club. And it's going to be intriguing to see how Russell Martin explains these two decisions in particular, even if, again, on the basis of the weekend. I don't think on the basis of performance any of the 11 could really have complained if they'd been dropped tonight for the visit of Viktoria Plzen.
Just to confirm that there, Josh, John Suter is in fact the captain for this evening if anybody is just joining late. I think going back to that earlier point there when one of the viewers was saying well done to Russell Martin for making these brave decisions, I don't think Russell Martin's got anything to lose by making these decisions. I think if anything, this is a time where he has to do it. I think we've seen managers in the past where they come out after the first game and they go, oh, the team needs time to gel, it's maybe just not worked yet, but he's seen from day one that these players are not perhaps going to work in this system, or they're not going to work the way they are just now, and he's had to make changes with it. But Keith knows that ultimately he'll be the man pegged for this at the end of the day. He'll be the man who has to shoulder the responsibility whether this team works or not. Moving into Nico Raskin, I think to say that he didn't play well on Saturday would be an absolute understatement of the highest regard. He just looked as though he was turning into a man every single time. It was almost impressive how he managed to find so little space. And I just don't think he's managed to work out his position in this system yet. There's been a lot of chat about whether, because Joe Rothwell's coming in, he's taken that number 6. And I think to put to bed any debate about that, I think Joe Rothwell is Russell Martin's number 6, and he will be for the season. I don't think there's any doubt that Joe Rothwell is going to get moved further up the park to accommodate Nico Raskin. I just don't think that's going to happen. So I think it's a case of Nico Raskin has to adapt to this Rangers team rather than them adapt to him. So it might be a little bit of a wake-up call for Nico Raskin. He might have thought that with his performances last year, he may have been one of the star turns in this team, but it just shows you that Russell Martin is not afraid to make those decisions to go, look, it didn't work, and you're going to need to show me more to get into this team. But what an opportunity for Lyle Cameron. Lyle Cameron is a player. I liked when he was at Dundee. I think he's got a bit about him. I think he's good going forward. And to make his first start in a Champions League game, he's a confident boy. As we've seen at the press conference the other day, he said he's ready to grab this with both hands. And what an opportunity, what a time to go and make a name for yourself.
Yeah, I think obviously Blair will kind of debate whether this was the right call or not post-match based on whether Rangers get a result. I don't mind. I think it's quite refreshing to see a manager come in and make some bold calls, because I think so often Rangers have played the game like Saturday, and either they've had a manager come out and defend it and defend it in a way that supporters know, people watching it, journalists, watching the game know you can't. That's not actually what you think, but you're playing to the gallery. They've either defended it or they've just kind of continued on, or they've made big statements, and then the next week it's 10 out of the 11 starting. So I don't mind a big call, but it's going to be intriguing to see how it works. I think Chefty on the left, will he join Joe Rothwell in the pivot position? I think you might see Max Aarons do that a little bit more, with Antman go wide and Gassama tuck in field. We will see, but certainly a left footer should help. Quick question here from someone saying, why do managers play a left footer on the right of midfield and vice versa? And that's something that's caught Raskin out a bit, I think, Blair, because he's been trapped on his left foot so much. The reason, I think, is, as we've said in a few shows, because then they can play kind of inverted in the same way that wingers do, and they can play closer towards goal and they can drive in field. But I think that only really works, to answer the comment, when you've got, for example, maybe a natural winger outside them and a left footer. When you've got Raskin next to like a Finlay Curtis and a Max Aarons and a Suter, I think, as we saw against Panathinaikos, it can all be a bit one-dimensional, and then the space isn't created to create that type of attack. So we'll see if that changes with Lyle Cameron in there tonight. Other changes, Cyril Dessers comes in. That was probably anticipated, Blair, given what Russell Martin had to say about him. Oliver Antman, again, it is refreshing to see Rangers just put a new signing in, instead of, as someone commented on the morning briefing today, allowing them to get acquainted with Glasgow and tour the West End for 3 weeks straight and unpack and get him in. He's trained with his teammates. He's done a full pre-season. He was meant to be part of the Dutch Cup final, kind of curtain raiser, Community Shield equivalent at the weekend. Intrigued to see what he has to offer tonight.
Yeah, it escapes me who it was last season. I think it was that the excuse was given that they were building IKEA furniture that they couldn't be put into the first team. Proper. He couldn't be put in the first team straight away because he was building his IKEA furniture. So I think it's nice, it's refreshing not to hear any of that, and it's just nice to have bought a player that's ready to go. And I mean, it just feels like so long since that's been the case. Where you go, this guy's been signed for, let's not beat about the bush, decent money. £3 million is decent money for Rangers. He's come in and he's ready to hit the ground running. And if he scores tonight, he sets up a goal, has a good performance, all of a sudden he's off to a flyer. And it's not, and this is not Telo Asgard's fault. He's obviously been unfortunate to pick up an injury, but already there's a sort of stop-startness to the beginning of his Rangers career. Again, not his fault, but it is just he's a victim of circumstance. Whereas Antman, he signed yesterday, he's in the team today, and the fans can just be excited about it. Which I think I wrote in a piece a few weeks ago when I joined the channel, that Rangers fans they've been denied this joy for so long of just actually being able to enjoy these players for what they are. And I think Antman, as you wrote in that the analysis piece breaking down the stats of him, he was one of the most prolific assisters in the Eredivisie last year, making chances. And I think that's what Rangers need. They need people to be able to break down these lines. They need people to be able to make chances when not a lot's happening, to be able to take the ball on and go, look, this isn't working what we're doing, I'm going to try and do something different, which I think we've seen from Jedi Gassama, especially in the Panathinaikos games as well. And there was even flashes of that against Motherwell when he was coming in. There was a shot he just bent round the far post that I think you don't see many other players taking on. So it's good to have two creative wingers on either side. Obviously, Mikey Moore to add to that as well. And then the big man Cyril Dessers up front, the enigma at number 9, Cyril Dessers. Who knows what Cyril Dessers are going to get tonight? He could score a hat-trick, he could miss 5 chances. I think that's what Rangers fans are all expecting these days. But he's obviously he's been highly talked up by Russell Martin, especially after the Motherwell game on Saturday. And I think it was very interesting, that line Martin came out with where he said, Cyril, we's the only player we've had buds for, and yet he's still running himself into the ground. And having spoke to Cyril Dessers a few times over the past few years, he's always struck me as a really nice guy, a really honest guy. And I think, if nothing else, he was going to run his heart out tonight and hopefully gets on the end of something.
Yeah, I think Antman's an interesting one, Blair, because he's kind of the antithesis of what Martin was speaking about, right? And that you're right, I think he's created 17 goals in the Eredivisie last season, one of the most prolific creators. And we've put it out a few times on videos or in different articles, the key pass and assist map he had, which I've not got to hand, but if I did, and you can see it on my Twitter feed, I think it's what Martin wants in the final third, which is when he's talking about crazy or selfish decisions, as he referenced in that press conference with you. He's talking about players, rather than following the script, taking a shot or holding the ball too long or not playing the right pass or not releasing it at the right time. And I think he needs a few Oliver Antmans to effectively follow instruction. And it's, again, going to be intriguing to see how he fits into things tonight. Wouldn't be surprised to see him get an assist, and Rangers finally playing with 2 wingers. That has been long overdue. Let's finish off with a few comments. William saying Rothbell hasn't lasted a 90 since his arrival. Could Raskin replace him at 60 minutes? Stevie, not happy. Raskin is our best player and he's been completely buried by the manager. Very poor management. David says, really hope Chefty and Cameron put in a good performance tonight. Fair play to Russell Martin for making these big calls. Yeah, absolutely. Intriguing night tonight at Ibrox. We will be live, myself and Chris, about 10-15 minutes after the full-time whistle. We're bringing you these post-match shows as quickly as we can post-match after all the big Rangers games, which is a lot of them. We're getting right back into the swing of this season. But until then, thank you for joining myself and Blair. Hope you enjoy the game wherever you're watching it, and we will speak to you after the full-time whistle. Bye.